Hello, this is Astrology with Jo, and welcome back for another astrology podcast video today on the new moon in Leo, happening on Friday, the 25th of July at 2 degrees of Leo. It's good to be back after a month away, and what a beautifully intriguing energy to return to with this Leo new moon. Thank you for being here and listening over in my little astrology corner. I hope you hear something that resonates, gives you perspective, confirmation, support, and guidance around the energies we're all experiencing at this time. So as usual, before I dive in, I'm going to break down what the new moon actually is. This is the period of the lunar cycle when the moon is conjunct the sun on the same degree in the same sign, really giving a very undiluted, raw, subjective force to the energy of that sign. In this case, it's Leo, as if Leo isn't conspicuous enough already. So this is a merging of energies, a merging of your conscious ego, spirit essence with the sun, and your subconscious instincts, emotions, and needs, your soul essence with the moon. It's a yin and yang blending together in the dark void space, which the new moon creates because the moon is completely obscured from our point of view on Earth. It is dark. It's called the black moon or dark moon. And this marks the initiation of the lunar cycle. It's where things are planted and established in the darkness, in the metaphorical womb or void. So it's infinite potential here in the stillness. And with this dark moon, we have metaphorically the inner world, the subconscious, and the liminality of the recesses of your psyche, your needs, instincts. All of this is made more eminent, more powerful, and more accessible. Now in Leo, we're very much working with an energy kind of at odds with the symbology of the moon. Leo is the yang, the leader, the expression, the ego, the conscious knowing of self. So with the moon here, the divine archetype of the yin, working with the sun, which is in its own sign of Leo, the moon now needs this integration of the divine yang with your needs, with your emotions, within your private life. So because Leo is about expression of the true unique heart that is yours and yours only, we now have that need to integrate your own creative expression, your own heart flame more wholly into your life. Now, Leo rules joy, play, boldness, creativity, leadership, flamboyance. Leo likes the stage. Leo also likes a mask or a role. Leo likes to act. Maybe this is about getting to the underlying needs that you think you have, which drive this play acting, this face, this personality that you wear. So this may be a new beginning around your sense of self, a new beginning in aligning that true sense of self from the inner outward. And this is very much about exploring the deep places of the ego. And I'll get more into that facet in a moment. So this is also a beautiful time to do something recreational, something that you love, that brings you joy, something creative, something with you at the center. Leo loves to be center stage. Have fun, laugh, be physically active, be romantic, be expressive or even dramatic. Watch a play or a musical, dress up, be colorful, treat yourself. A major Leo lesson is learning how to show affection, especially to yourself, and learning how to love yourself enough to be bold for yourself. So this may be a launch point in accepting yourself and expressing the truth of who you are with love and honor, especially in terms of honoring yourself. Because Leo is the royal and you are a sovereign being. You are a queen, king, emperor, empress, whatever, because you are the leader, the figurehead, the face of your own life. So this new moon may be showing us more of how we can embody that. And it's really a launch pad into being bold enough to step into all of these things that you never thought would be you. There is much going on. Muchness. There is a predominance of fire in this chart, with Leo, of course, and all of those points there in Aries, with the famous ingress of Neptune and Saturn, which is playing into this lunation by the by, but more on that in a moment. We also have a pretty significant air component in the background feeding into this new moon as well. And I'm going to start with that because the most prominent interaction we have is an exact opposition of Pluto in Aquarius facing down the Leo new moon. Now, Pluto has been in a long-term, very evolutionary grand air trine, which has just been zapped into consciousness by Uranus, and it is also feeding into this new moon. So that's very significant, and I'll be breaking that down in a moment. But first of all, basically, when Pluto interacts with any planet or point, whether by transit or in your natal chart, Pluto demands transformation. Pluto is lord of the underworld, and it usually puts us through an underworld, underbelly, shadow experience to emerge from that experience transformed and empowered. And Pluto represents your relationship to power in all its forms. And as the underworld archetype, Pluto usually represents a death, ending, destruction of something, which is why people, when they come to astrology, they usually approach Pluto with some trepidation. However, through the death and transformation process, Pluto represents cyclicity itself and the life cycles you go through, the many, many deaths and rebirths you experience and have in your lifespan. Here, opposing this new moon, we very much have the powers of this Pluto destruction and endings, pushing and pulling with the forces of creation and life itself, with the sun and with Leo. So this new beginning, this launch renewal of whatever it is that you're birthing at this time, it's likely to be a very profound, deep, meaningful process. And it's also likely to be teaching you about your empowerment. And this can be difficult because it's Pluto and because it's an opposition. This may be power plays, power Pluto plays Leo, or power games. This can very much involve big egos and maybe your awakening consciousness of your own ego and how it grapples for power in your life, in yourself, and with others. This may very well be involving other people or external forces, because that's what oppositions usually indicate, something outside of you. And especially because Pluto is an outer planet, an impersonal planet. So there may be external factors here showing you ways to handle power and ego. And it's not always pleasant. However, these are very creative and powerful forces here, these fixed signs, with the sun dignified in its own rulership and Pluto in the brilliant genius mind energy of Aquarius. So any friction here is probably going to spark many varying opportunities, creations, new paths, new perspectives, if you allow yourself to see them. And the thing with the fixed signs, and especially in self-absorbed Leo, is that it can be difficult to gain a differing point of view, a more objective opinion or perspective. So what this strong air signature is giving, what this powerful Pluto in Aquarius is showing you, is basically what your ego looks like from the outside. It's giving you a very good look at it. And if you allow it, it can show you so much. You may see something you don't want to see because Pluto shows that dark side. But working with this, working on your ego, your conscious knowing of self, looking at your personality, what you identify with as being you, this entire process, because of Pluto's involvement, is possibly going to be a trial. It's going to bring up things that you don't want to accept in yourself. It's going to show you which parts of you need to end, need to fall away as part of a shedding cycle. And this very much is ego death energy. And you may remember these themes from earlier on in the year when we had that Mars retrograde in Leo opposing this Pluto as well. So this is almost like an echo of that. Because the moon in Leo, remember this is a new moon, because this moon is here, this is about a need, a real instinctive need to end, and also a need to shine, a need to be yourself, a need to be sovereign. Pluto here is saying that there's something here that must die for you to step into your sovereignty and for you to step more into your power. This may be by even tempering your sense of self, tempering your ego, or it may be about finding it. accepting it, voicing it. Whichever it is, your true self will be allowed to shine through from this process. And there's a strong emotional pull with the moon to just be yourself. There's a falling away and ending of all the trappings, all the paraphernalia, all the ego structures, the masks, whether yours or others, which are occluding your sense of self. And this new beginning on your intention at this new moon, it's a liberating process here because Pluto is in Aquarius, the sign of freedom. So I do see a lightening here, a lifting off. Also because of this grand air trine as well. So Pluto has been in a long-term ongoing trine to Sedna in Gemini for a few years now, dwarf planet Sedna. They're both in the beginning degrees of their signs, air signs, and they both move very slowly. Then we have at 1 to 2 degrees of Libra, the other air sign, we have a galactic phenomenon called the supergalactic center. I know there's another one of these things. You may already be familiar with the galactic center and the great attractor situated in Sagittarius. This supergalactic center has an immense mass. It's a powerful black hole which serves as a gravitational center for many galaxies, ours included. And it serves this purpose by essentially swallowing everything, swallowing the galaxies. I think it was Philip Sedgwick who called it a cosmic vacuum cleaner, which is very apt. So astrologically, the veracity of the supergalactic center is expressed through the lens of Libra as an insatiable yearning for compatibility, right relationship, interdependence, and cooperation. It expresses negatively as toxic, consuming, codependent relationship and expresses positively as equality, balanced, harmonious relationships, right relationships. Usually it does have a tendency to an extreme expression when aspected, just as part of its very nature. In some people, in my experience, when aspected in the chart, it can actually be a fierce activism of equal rights and gender equality. Now, I'm noting it here as part of an air grand trine because I find it fascinating that in my day-to-day, since Uranus entered Gemini on the 7th of July this year, to electrify this configuration, joining Sedna there in Gemini, I have noticed so many relationships around me transforming, transmuting, or ending entirely through some kind of dark emotional experience, which involves a heavy amount of codependence. So the ending and liberating Pluto and the transmutation through trials, Sedna, of relationships, supergalactic center, has been a very prominent theme that I've been noticing, and I align it to the powerful outer planetary activations from not one, but three of our biggest hitters, Uranus, Pluto, and Sedna, to this supergalactic center. Getting back to the new moon, through its connection to this configuration via the occupation of the early degrees of their signs, it makes me wonder how this empowerment and transformation of the ego and the sovereign self is going to interplay within relationship dynamics with that supergalactic center involved, and how it's going to interplay with the individual's consciousness of how we connect with Uranus and Gemini. So there's a huge relational and connection component here that is interplaying with this ego power dynamic. And I feel that in this period of time, the way we relate to one another, the way we connect to people, others, both close and not close, it's going to shift in an almighty way. And there's a challenge here, a message here from this new moon to remain heart-centered with Leo amongst all of these airy winds of change. And there's a challenge here to express the heart, to feel from and act from the heart, and allow connections and relationships to form as they will around that, rather than reconfiguring your ego, your face, your personality, your heart to form around connections and relationships. I'm just going to say that again because that came from something that wasn't me, and I'm just getting that I need to repeat it. So the challenge here is to remain heart-centered, to express from the heart, feel from and act from the heart, and to allow connections and relationships to form around that, rather than reconfiguring your ego, your face, your personality, and your heart to form around those connections and relationships. This is the death and transmutation of the ego, the mask, to have more heart-centered connections and relationships. Okay, so that was one grand trine, a grand trine in the early degrees of the air signs. Now, we have another grand trine in the early degrees of the fire signs. So remember at the beginning, I told you that Saturn and Neptune in Aries are playing with this new moon. They are traveling together in conjunction technically, though it won't be exact until next year. And they are both trining this new moon. This also means that they are opposing that supergalactic center in Libra over there at the beginning degrees of Libra. So until they pass, let's call it about 3 degrees off into next year and the next, they will also be activating this supergalactic center, highlighting relational issues. In this case, the individuation, Aries, of self-responsibility with Saturn and self-spirituality, self-acceptance with Neptune. So this is looking to the self for instruction, Saturn, and looking to the self for inspiration, Neptune. And when you're in a codependent situation, this, of course, brings things up. This is also being activated at this new moon, and it is being supported. Aries and Leo are very, very similar when we talk about self with a capital S. In trine, the Sun, Moon, Saturn, Neptune, and it's guiding you to a heart-centric, not egocentric, Pluto is making sure of that, a heart-centric, brave sense of identity and an ability to express that. And the last corner of this fire grand trine triangle is technically not a physical body, but I'm including her because of 2 reasons. First, she gets mad when she's excluded. And second, because these 2 grand trines happen to be overlapping in a way which forms the overall configuration of a 6-pointed star and hexagon, which is pretty rare and pretty special. If you look at the chart on the screen, I've drawn in all the pretty green lines to show you this shape. So this is Black Moon Lilith, the final point of the triangle. And just because the energy is all but in play, I'm including her to complete this 6-pointed star known as a Star of David, or my preference is the Grand Sextile, because all of these points in trine are connected together via 60-degree angles called sextiles. Now, 6 is a number associated with harmony and cooperation, and the fire signs included within this configuration are therefore within the bounds of cooperation and harmony. So it's like, by holding your ground, taking charge, being brave, expressing your truth, holding to your individuality, all of this is actually feeding the harmony of the whole. It serves the harmony of the whole and, of course, your own personal harmony. Now, Black Moon Lilith first entered Sagittarius back in mid-June. I use true Black Moon Lilith, by the way, not the mean. She has been crossing backwards and forwards in her erratic cycle to oppose over and over again Uranus, both when it was in Taurus and now that it is in Gemini. So she's toying with this air grand trine as well, giving the constant reminder that right relationship, right connection includes personal power. It includes personal choice. And in Sagittarius, it includes your rights, your legal rights. And most of all, it requires unrestricted movement on all levels. That is also what is feeding into this evolution of consciousness in this grand trine, but it's also the evolution of what it means to be in a conscious relationship. So as part of this fire grand trine feeding into this new moon as well, Black Moon Lilith is saying that the scope with Sagittarius, the scope of your sovereignty has no restrictions. You are yours and no one else's. And this is about the exploration of what you mean as an identity, the exploration of your belief systems that have fed your identity in ways that have perhaps detracted from your sovereignty. Black Moon Lilith, remember, is the demonized independent woman, ostracized for having self-respect. So this is an affirmation then here that holding to your true heart, your true self, is your right, despite the ramifications produced by others' reactions to this. That is not your responsibility. So getting back to that grand sextile as a whole picture, by remaining heart-centered, even if that means you aren't centered on something or someone or some connection that no longer serves your life or your good, by remaining heart-centered in yourself, it is feeding your overall life harmony, the harmony of the whole. And this is a very significant period of time. The moon has moved on from 2 degrees of Leo, but the sun stays in orb for longer. So it's perpetuating this configuration. This is an opportune moment to truly center into the fire of your harmony, to merge your essence with your instincts in a way that is truly you. This is what will align your relationships to love in a way that nothing else can. Energy calls to energy, and this period of time we're in now, during this new moon period, but also as a whole, 2025 and next year, when these big planetary energies are most prominent. This period of time is when we're becoming aware of how our energy formulates the energy of the life around us that we inhabit and that we live. And this Leo new moon, it's a warm, wonderful reminder to live from the heart, your true heart, with joy, with fun, and with light. So the tarot card that I drew is the Ace of Wands, which is genuinely the perfect iteration of a fire sign new moon and pretty much everything I've just been saying. This is the Inner Child Tarot by Isha and Mark Lerner, illustrated by Christopher Guilfoyle. Aces are beginnings. They are the potential of the whole suit wrapped up into a single card. Wands are the fire cards, the element of creation, creativity, inspiration, action, activity, drama, passion, magic. Working with the astrology, this card is showing us the unfolding of the self, and Pluto and Sedna are represented here in this particular Ace of Wands, I think, because butterfly, of course, is a symbol of transformation, of transmuting from one solid life into another equally solid life as an entirely different being. The change is an unfolding of brilliance and beauty, and the change process itself is one of discomfort and uncertainty, sometimes even pain and hardship. So everyone is at their own point in the journey. Some are still in the chrysalis or cocoon. Some are still breaking out of the chrysalis. Some have transformed and are fluttering about drinking nectar and having a jolly old time. That's where we all want to be, right? But remember, once you're at that stage, the message from the butterfly as well is that the butterfly's life is ephemeral. The life of the egg and the caterpillar is still part of that whole life too. And you can see them on the borders of the card here, the little caterpillars. So this card then maybe represents the honoring of who you are and also of who you have been, honoring the cycles of life you've been through and what you're going through, honoring that the entirety of your life has made you who you are, and also that you have the choice here, this infinite potential of the ace and this fire new moon, the choice to decide who you are, where you're going next, and what the next stage is. And in that decision, there is that infinite, boundless potential. So butterfly is also a symbol for the soul. The Greek word for butterfly and soul is psyche, which apparently comes from the myth that the human soul wanders in the form of a butterfly while it searches for its next incarnation. It's also linked to the myth of Eros and Psyche, Psyche who had to go through many trials before she could be united with her true love and become immortal in heaven with him. So there is very much a soul evolution, which is here at this new moon, incorporating your sense of self, your personal fire, your joy, your creative force, and your love. And no matter the difficulties in the world and in your life, butterfly is also a symbol of hope. And Leo has a very positive, very warm, sunny energy. And it reminds us that the sun still rises every day, and every day dawns anew, and there is still so much to be grateful for, to have joy for, and to have hope for. And the choice is all yours. Leo, you, where you go from here, what to do from here, who to be from here. So tapping into that potential to evolve into your power and to evolve into your heart is really the strongest message here. So that brings me to the end of this reading on the new moon. Thanks again for being here. I really appreciate your presence and support. I'd love to know what you think in the comments to get an understanding of what everyone's been moving through with these energies. Don't forget to subscribe as well as to keep on top of all of my offerings, and click the like button if you liked the video, of course. Thank you once again, and I will see you in my next forecast. Bye.